Okay, good afternoon. Very exciting article, exciting news coming out of the Middle East regarding Israeli startup Kokomodo. So June 4th, 2024, real cocoa without the beans, ? Kokomodo deploys plant cell culture to tackle cocoa supply challenge. Israeli startup Kokomodo has emerged from stealth to produce cocoa via plant cell culture. Armed with $750,000 from the Kitchen FoodTech Hub by Strauss and the Israeli Innovation Authority. With demand for cocoa expected to dramatically exceed supply in the coming years, a flurry of creative solutions has emerged, with startups exploring alternatives made with everything from carob and barley to upcycled coffee grounds and grape seeds. Kokomodo, a joint venture between the Kitchen and Plante Bioscience, is one of a new breed of startups looking to produce cocoa, California cultured Celeste Bio, or cocoa bioactives, Ayana Bio, from plant cells. Rather than using sunlight, water, and soil to nurture fully grown plants, firms using plant cell culture grow plant cells indoors in bioreactors fed on sugars, vitamins, minerals, and other nutrients. In a few years, we should be on par with the price of premium cocoa going to the chocolate industry. Plant cell technology is already used on a commercial scale to produce a handful of drugs, notably breast cancer drug Taxol, but has recently attracted interest in the nutraceutical space as botanical supply chains become increasingly threatened. That said, growing cocoa in bioreactors is seen as especially challenging given the large volumes required and relatively low prices compared to, say, saffron or vanilla, even with recent price hikes. However, Kokomodo co-founder and CEO Tal Govrin reckons it can make economic sense with the right cell lines. The cost structures we have today may be more relevant for supplying the dietary supplement market in the short term, said Govrin, who has 20 plus years experience in strategy, business development, and sales in consumer goods, pharmaceuticals, and investment banking. But in a few years, we should be on par with the price of premium cocoa that is going to the chocolate industry. She told Egg News. How it works. CTO Dr. Dario Bridal, who has been working on tissue culture at Plante for over 2 years, explained, we began by obtaining fresh beans, the seeds from the cacao fruit, from high-quality cacao varieties grown in South and Central America. Then we go through a process whereby we get to a callus, an undifferentiated cluster of cells that behave like stem cells, and then when you give them nutrition, they propagate. And once they propagate enough on a plate, we transfer them to liquid media. Here they encourage to grow and proliferate until a certain point at which Kokomodo alters the environment and the media to elicit the production of certain components, said Bridal. There are different ways to elicit the production of certain components, so we can feed the cell something or we can apply abiotic stressors, changing the temperature or other environmental parameters. The advantage of our process is that it is completely controlled, so we get a consistent product. Plus, we don't have to worry about heavy metals, which can be sucked up into cocoa plants through the soil. While Kokomodo is not genetically engineering its cells, it is using its understanding of plant metabolomics to help guide the above process, said Govrin. We have a lot of knowledge on how to amplify certain components in the plant in a natural way. The other thing that makes us unique is that we have established multiple different cell lines from different varieties. Some are very high in antioxidants, while others have a richer aroma, for example. Fermentation, roasting, and grinding. Once the cocoa biomass is harvested, it has to be fermented and then roasted and ground like regular cocoa beans. Although gentler treatment is required at each stage, said Govrin. We can also very closely control the downstream process at every stage to create custom products for different customers and applications. Asked how Kokomodo's cocoa compares to cocoa from fermented, roasted, and ground beans, she said, we have done an analysis on several aspects, including antioxidants and volatiles, and some of our lines are 10 times richer in antioxidants compared to the benchmark product. Others are richer in protein. Meanwhile, the business model, she added, our model is to be a B2B ingredients company serving different clients in different industries, from cosmetics to premium chocolate. Asked about potential partnerships, either for manufacturing scale-up or for distribution and sales, she said, I'm a great believer in working together and scaling up together if your startup and you want to get fast to the market. With the price of cocoa currently in the stratosphere, she said investors quickly get the why of Kokomodo and move on to more practical questions. They all see the big picture, but it's a case of how do you scale up? How do you go to market? Who are the right partners? What's the regulatory pathway? On the latter front, she said, in the US, it will be the GRAS, the Generally Recognized as Safe process, and in the EU, probably the Novel Food Regulation. While it is tempting to compare plant cell culture to cultivated meat, she said the unit economics are very different. Our cost structure is completely different to cultivated meat in terms of the media costs and the fact that the toxicity, certain waste components from cells that need to be removed from the media in plant cell culture is not even close to animal cells. Plus, we don't need to create 3D structures and use scaffolding upon which to seed cells and so on. The case for plant cell culture. Advocates of plant cell culture say it offers some key advantages over conventional agriculture. First, there's a sustainability argument. Why use all that agricultural land, water, and energy to nurture fully grown plants when you're only interested in one small part of the plant? Second, they said, plant cell culture can ensure a consistent supply of botanicals with supply chains increasingly threatened by climate change and unpredictable weather, political instability, adulteration, disease, and heavy metals and pesticides from soil. Third, they claim it offers the promise of rapid, consistent, and controlled production of plant compounds, regardless of season or location, in a sterile environment with no pesticides. Finally, they argue it can also deliver higher yields, for example, by understanding metabolic pathways in plants that produce certain polyphenols and the precise conditions that drive plants to generate more of them. Skilled players in plant cell culture can achieve concentrations of bioactives that far exceed those produced by plants grown in the wild or via traditional agriculture. So with that being said, quite an interesting article. Goes to explain not only who has funded this $750,000 in fundraising from the Kitchen FoodTech Hub by Strauss, and of course the Israeli Innovation Authority. But the article does a great job of explaining what part is being grown, the process itself, plant cell culture, and then thankfully the second half of the article really does a good job of explaining what is the business model and the B2B strategy. So it's always good to see startups are looking at how to go to market and which market they will be addressing. Okay,